Hey, thanks. Danny Zhao? Is that how I say it? Still trying to get into the full color palette here. Right now it's more the underpainting, so I want the outdoor, like they're outside, and I actually want that to be kind of a nighttime full moon sort of vibe, so it's all gonna get like cooled way down to kind of contrast with that warm interior that we've got going on. So, just kind of trying to think of now where to dig into the cools. I think maybe best to start a little darker. Might even go more desat than that. Maybe warm up the blue and desat it a bit. It's tough, like, I mean, and I knew that this would be a little bit of a challenge working on top of such a warm underpainting, knowing that I was gonna go very cool with the actual palette for the most part. Right, the contrast was just like gets a little crazy, but as you start to build up the cools in there, starts to make a little more sense. And this is mostly, it's a study for an actual oil painting that I would like to do. So, nice thing is with the digital, I can just kind of keep painting around until I find exactly what it is I want. So it's kind of just a matter of like throwing some cools down and then starting to push that stuff around a little bit. I feel like maybe I should get into those shadows as well and start to kind of figure those out. It's so crazy how cold like and saturated that stuff actually looks, and yet I'm not anywhere near the saturated zone, but it's contrasting with all the warms. It's a little deceptive. Such is the nature of value and color. Oh, I couldn't even answer that. I mean, I started drawing, I mean, as soon as I was old enough to pick up a pencil or a pen or whatever I first picked up. And I just never stopped. I mean, from the time I was a little kid, I was like, watching Disney animations and reading comics and I just wanted to do that stuff. Not that I do comics or animation at this point. I mean, I've done a little bit of comic book work, but now my job is pretty much all in working on movie posters. But yeah, like I don't know why. I just always wanted to do art. A lot of it was storytelling. Like it's easier for me to say what makes me want to be an artist now, because I honestly can't remember back far enough to know what made me want to do art as a kid. All kids like to draw, right? And just some give it up and some don't. And I just never did. It's kind of never really an option. I realized when I was looking at this the other day, realized I need to get a little bit of perspective in here, so we need some of the interior. Walls, I guess. But they're not facing directly toward any light sources, which in this case would be candles and torches and stuff, right? So very warm light sources. So we need a bit of that perspective in here. Granted, the bottom part here probably wouldn't really be catching as much light, but it would probably be catching some. I don't know if it would be like, might actually be a lot darker than that. Maybe not, I guess, if there are some candles sitting down on tables and stuff, I suppose it could be catching some of those. I mean, realistically, I guess my mom kind of inspired me. She, at one point, was going to be an artist. Of course, then she ended up meeting my dad and getting married, and her life, went a very different direction. But so I suppose, in a lot of ways, like, she at least encouraged the pursuit of art, right? The pursuit of art, pursuit of art. catching a bit more of the side of that. And then we'll catch just a bit of like hotter kind of rims. Yeah, just a few sort of hot spots, I guess. Feel like maybe we should see a bit more of the bottom of this. Yeah, art really wasn't something that I, happened on later. It was something that was always kind of there for me, so which is why it makes it a little bit of a harder answer in my in my case. Good. Some more cools going on in here. And I'm using a wet brush, right? So it's doing a bit of color mixing on the palette. Which in this case can kind of help me keep an eye on like how cool or saturated things go. Just mixing with that underpainting kind of helps. Also helps to mimic, at least to a degree, the traditional approach, knowing that I want to do an oil version of this. It can help a little bit to kind of do some of that. I mean, it's not really the same as using oils, but I think getting some of that color mixing at least helps a little bit. I feel like I should figure out a color for the shadows. Then it kind of depends on how dark I'm willing to go on those shadows. You know, I don't want to go black with it, because you know, in on my oil palette, I don't have black on my palette. Granted, you can get super close to it with ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson, and then you can throw in a bit of olive green if you want. You know, whatever, you can push that color around, and it can definitely go pretty dark. It's just not true black. But I feel like cooling off those shadows will help. So let's do that at least. And they can still be, I don't mind them being warmer than, say, whatever is in the light. So we can still go toward the warm side. Maybe a little more saturated, but definitely darker. Yeah, it's going, I don't like that. Let's see. I don't know if saturated is actually the way to go. The nice thing is knowing where I want to push the stuff that's in the moonlight, which will be very much into the blue. Even desaturating it warms it up, right? Because anything off of a true blue is basically warming it up, because you can't get any cooler than an actual blue, which is roughly about a cobalt blue, if you're talking about tube paints, is about as blue as you can get. And so any way you shift that, whether it's toward red or toward yellow, you're warming it up, right? And then even desaturating it, because to desaturate blue, you're essentially adding orange to it, right? Complementary color. So that is essentially warming it up. And I'll probably go a bit impressionistic with some of this too. Like once I kind of get more of this stuff worked out, I'll probably bring in some other colors that kind of have nothing to do with what we're doing here, because this is more about getting like a nice painting done, right? Not so much like not just like, I'm not going for realism in terms of the palette. You know, some influence from there, I suppose, but not truly what I want. So basically all the shadow, mostly the deep shadows, I kind of am going to want to be kind of the same, at least the same value, right? As I said, we'll get a bit impressionistic with this. So the colors we will shift around a little bit. Which, I mean, we could do, right? If we get a little bit of color dynamics in here. Color dynamics. Hue, I don't really want. Yeah, it's mostly just a hue shift. Oops. 5%. It's crazy the amount of difference between like 3% and 5% hue shift. It can get pretty hectic. So I'm probably don't want that much hue shift yet. Even though, you know, we can get in here and definitely like bring some other colors in, you know. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Because ultimately that'll just start to add some visual interest, which is always fun. Yo, what's up? How you doing? Chat is very, very chill tonight. But as always, anyone, please feel free to ask questions if you have any questions. I will always do my best to answer them. Right now I'm keeping this stuff pretty loose. Like, I mean, even when I do actual oil painting, I always leave a bit of the underpainting showing through. And so I will try and mimic some of that in here, but right now I'm mostly just trying to get some colors and values down and stuff that I can kind of play with. We might just turn that off for now, because sometimes having something that bright gets a little distracting. All I can say to that is lots and lots of practice. And maybe a bit of obsession with art as well. Obsession will take you a long way. I think I have this. Yeah, I'm gonna wanna change that. Just because I like being able to see that that's like a cast shadow, and realistically that's the only little section where we can actually see that cast shadow from the like bar that they're leaning on. So I want to keep that, because otherwise it can just look like, oh, it's like dark material down there and lighter up top, and that's not the case. To get more of a sense of light, I think we'll need that little bit of Yeah, it's just like, I mean, I know I've mentioned before, that like you have to get a little bit obsessed with this stuff, and all that really means is, you know, thinking about it a lot and to as deep a level as you can, right? And it's one of those things where, I mean, even in art school, people would get embarrassed to get too like deep with art, and but the problem is that like we're never going to really understand what we're trying to do unless we can kind of get to that place and consider like all the subtleties of color and value and how that might relate to storytelling, and whether we're talking fine art or illustration, it doesn't really matter. It's still some kind of storytelling, right? Sometimes more abstract than others, but it's still some kind of storytelling. Whether or not the fine artists want to admit that, many of them don't, but as illustrators, we know better. Storytelling is our jam. And so there's just a certain amount of obsession that is involved in that, because it's the only way to really like to understand this stuff to the level that we should. All the artists that we look at, all the old long dead artists, I mean, they took this stuff seriously. And granted, like way back then, I guess painting kind of had it was maybe a little more important, so to speak. I still think it has a purpose and has a certain amount of importance to it, but back then painting was like the medium, the ultimate form of media. They didn't have movies, they didn't have TV shows, or whatever. They didn't have fucking web comics and memes. Memes being the highest form of news and storytelling we have these days. So painting was it, and so I think they had to kind of really take it very seriously. But I also think there's no reason we can't do that now. I still think painting can do things that other mediums, I don't want to say that other mediums can't, because I think there are mediums that can, but they just don't. Because for some reason, people in general still think that hyperrealism is the ultimate form of achievement in storytelling, which is too bad, because I couldn't disagree more. There's a reason we're listening to the Final Fantasy VI piano collections and not something from some newer game. But I also think that just like considering painting to a very deep level also allows us to just see the world in a little different way, which is always a good thing. It's always good to kind of push ourselves and see what else we can. Yeah, I know webcomics aren't hyper-realism, but, it still seems to be where a lot of people go for their storytelling jollies these days. into figuring out. I'm not entirely sure how I want to approach these. Well, let's first get a bit more shadow stuff going on. Cool off these shadows a little bit. What is that for? Whatever. I'm just getting into these deeper shadows on the figures, just cooling them off to kind of bring them a bit more into the palette. I don't mind if they're not like totally cooled off. Like I said, I'd like to let some of the underpainting show through. It's funny because I think when I was younger and kind of first getting into painting and stuff, I thought that maybe it was not so much accidental, but maybe just kind of unfinished or something like that. But then as I kind of got more and more into painting and realized that, oh, these artists that, you know, were creating these masterpieces kind of knew what they were doing. So if they wanted to let the underpainting show through, that was very intentional. It was not an accident. It was not laziness. It was a look. It was a thing. I do feel like I want to get a little darker. You know, like we can kind of fake some of this stuff. Would it actually get darker in here toward the edges? No. It would probably appear that way, just out of contrast, but we're actually going to get a little darker for now. We'll see. We'll come back and fine tune some of this stuff. Come on, give me my little color picker. And for anyone who doesn't know, hello Jordan, welcome. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm being heavily inspired by some of the vignettes that like the Brandywine artists would do back in the early 1900s, particularly Dean Cornwell. He would do these awesome vignettes that I think were really meant to have type placed around them, so they would take on these kind of interesting shapes and stuff. But they were just so cool because they had this beautifully painted scene with all this like open canvas, or even like he might actually paint a lighter color around the scene. And I love the look of it. I'm like, I kind of want to do something like that. So that's where that lighter color is coming from. I'm gonna start getting into their skin. Maybe we'll get into the clothing a little bit first. A lot of their clothing is actually meant to be actually pretty blue, so we're gonna have to lean into that a little bit. But you know, that'll be kind of fun to kind of have some of that dark saturation. Even though strictly speaking, by moonlight, you don't really have a lot of saturation. You mostly just have value shift. So it just, if the moon's bright enough, you might have just the slightest color shifts. But again, painting, not photography. So we can, I think, play with some of that a little bit. And I think realistically in the actual oil painting, um, the underpainting won't get so dark. I don't really want to fight the values as much when I do the actual painting. I don't mind it here because I know I can, paint right over that stuff. But not all the underpainting will be dry when I start doing the overpaint on it, so I won't paint it as dark, because that would kind of mean heavier paint, and I'd want to keep the underpainting, the actual underpainting, fairly light, thin. Sorry. She will have the same color. Skirt, scarf, and sash, because I think these parts are maybe the parts that are more like uniforms for maybe whatever ship they're on. Again, for anyone who doesn't know, sea elves, they're sailors, they're explorers and whatnot. They just happen to be on land right now. That's a tough one because most of the stuff that I've learned is not from books. Hello, Mauricio. Welcome. Honestly, James Gurney's Color and Light. What's it called? Oh, it's called Color and Light. I thought it was something Color and Light, but no, James Gurney's book on Color and Light is pretty fantastic. More than anything, do I know Scott Eaton? That name sounds really familiar, but I can't place the art off the top of my head. Janelle, part of, I think, if you want to study mood, part of that is also just looking at paintings that capture a mood that intrigues you, and kind of breaking down what it is that they're doing that is achieving that. I think that's kind of more what I've done, right? Having artist friends that are also that are very good artists helps, so that we can kind of discuss those things together. And we do that, we will just geek out on that shit to no end. We love it. That's another part of kind of being obsessed with this stuff, is just being able to really sit and analyze it and pick it apart, and not get kind of self-conscious about it. A lot of people would, again, even in art school, people would get self-conscious when we'd sit down and kind of start to analyze a painting and say okay, what is it that you love about this? Or if you don't love it, why, what is it that sets you off, that turns you off? I'm kind of just bringing in sort of a range of different colors and values into here. I don't want it to feel too flat. I'm not getting into the lights just yet. I'm kind of just laying in some overall values. But friends are good. But, you know, even online, you know. That's where let's do links, since Nightbot isn't doing its job. You know, you can join the Discord if you haven't already. I think it's down at the bottom of those links. I've been super busy with work, so I haven't been totally active on Discord, but you know, it's a good place, and the general art talk, a good place to kind of, you know, post paintings, post stuff that you like, and you know, we can discuss it. Arthur Kell, sometimes I have a job. You know, I pretend. You bastard. For those that don't know, Arthur Kell and I work together. He is also an awesome artist. And you should give him a follow if you don't already. So, I want his pants to actually be a warmer, like, not warm per se, desaturated still, but definitely a warmer color. Maybe like a desaturated sort of gray brown, but of course we're what's the word? Not accommodating. Where, wow, brain's not working, so fuck it, whatever. Compensating for nighttime. Wait, how many? No, but Daniel Landerman is me, so there's only 2 Daniels in the chat right now. Unless there's another one that I don't know about. If there's a 3rd Daniel, show yourself. Alright, so his pants. Warmer, right? Because the drapery, the kind of skirt thing, hesitate to call it that just because of the association with that being women's clothing, but that's not the type of skirt or wrap that this is. Hey Kim, stop! I love how she just looks at me and like claws the pillow, and she knows she's not supposed to do it, but she doesn't fucking care. Dude, hey. No, she doesn't care. She stops when she claws my chair and I tell her to stop. But the pillow, she's like, whatever, you're not going to get up and do anything about it, so fuck you. It's just a cheap couch pillow anyway, whatever. Brat. I would never shoot her with a Nerf gun. That's terrible. Poor little thing. And I don't want them to have like all the same clothing on, so hers are a little bit lighter. Yeah, I don't think a dog would care about a Nerf gun. I mean, maybe a little dog, but, you know, I wouldn't get a little dog. No, I like cats. I love dogs, but... And it's weird, because I grew up with dogs, like, my whole life. We had cats, kind of, but they were outdoor cats that kind of adopted us. But I'm very much a cat person. Although I think I kind of always was. It was just the rest of my family that was more dog people. So again, we're kind of just getting some colors down that, you know, I'll start to sort of push and pull around as we kind of get our cool palette set up. Yeah, little dogs are cats that can't take care of themselves. Danny, what are you referring to in terms of the blue and the red? Are you meaning the underpainting? Or do you mean the kind of palette that the colors that I'm choosing, which, yeah, like I'll go pretty hot, but keeping it very desaturated is sort of, I'm definitely exaggerating the amount of color that you would probably actually see in a scene like this. Just because I want a bit more variety. But it also doesn't take too much to start to kind of push some things apart. You know, in terms of the colors, especially when you have all this stuff like kind of, you know, obviously it's not monochromatic, but it's very, very much like all on the cool end, except when we get into that interior scene, right? But there is a kind of fun thing that happens, because the underpainting is essentially a complementary color to um, the palette that we're setting up, right? And letting that color kind of show through between the marks kind of creates some fun uh, simultaneous contrast that we can really play with, right? And simultaneous contrast is just having things that are the same value, um, but either different colors or different levels of saturation, right? So you get some fun kind of vibration that happens with that stuff, right? So if we take, let's do this. We don't want a color shifting one. Where's my DL? Right. So if we take something like this, and then we can either keep the color the same, but up the saturation. Let's see if we did that right. I think we did. Ooh, almost perfect. It's like 1 or 2% off, but anyway. Right, so that creates a kind of a fun kind of vibration. Oh, I guess I upped the saturation there. Let's go just a tad lighter. Right, so that's simultaneous contrast, or we can even throw in something like that, right? So that looks lighter to me. So let's do this. There. So something like that, right? So you get this kind of vibration that happens between those colors, especially if we look, along the edge of that shape, right? There's this kind of like, it can be a little uncomfortable kind of, and that's simultaneous contrast, where you have that same value but different colors or different levels of saturation, right? And that's something that the Impressionists relied on heavily for optical blending, right? So even right, so just getting these different colors in there, but same values, and when you kind of step back, you can get some nice sort of like blending of of colors in there, which can be a lot of fun to play with. Don't discount the Impressionists. All kinds of fun things you can do with that stuff. So Hello, Rainy Mage. Right on. Well, Danny, I'm glad you could come by. If you got it cut out, I imagine this will continue. I don't think we'll finish it this stream. Possibly next stream, but next stream I might be done with it, and we might be getting into the actual oil painting. But either way, you know, we'll post this up for sure. And Rainy Mage, my night is pretty awesome. I gotta say, I can't complain. Really can't. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna heat it up, but yeah, it's a little too gray. Too gray. A little too dark. There we go. Okay, I should probably handle their skin pretty soon. No, I do remember that name though. But it's been a little while, right? And it's good to see you again. I'm glad you came back by. I'm better with names when I read them than I am just hearing them, which is weird because I'm actually really good at remembering what people say, but for some reason, names don't really stick with me. That's okay. I haven't been the most consistent with my streaming lately, so you know, I really can't fault anyone for not being consistent with stopping by the streams. All right. Let's get into some skin tones. The tricky part is that in my world, these elves actually have it's a little darker skin, but it's like literally goes toward yeah, it might be a visual person, kind of, sort of. Their skin literally goes toward like the cool side, even though they do have, you know, kind of darker skin. Not super dark, but a little darker. So I'm trying to think of how I want to I don't know if that will come across, to be honest, because everything is cool, so we may not have that kind of contrast to rely on. So let's see what we can do. I'm not really zooming in on this just yet because I don't want to worry about the details, like a little too early for that. We'll get into that though. Because I'd made the mistake, I'd actually done a painting of the guy, the male elf, I don't know, maybe a couple of years back, like an oil painting, and I'd done a digital study first to figure out the colors and stuff, but I went too loose on the study, and it's supposed to be reference for what I'm painting, so it makes sense that I should probably work out the details and then in the actual oil painting decide how much of that detail I want to keep, right? And how much I can get rid of, because regardless, right now, even though digital can do a pretty damn good job of kind of mimicking traditional brush strokes, are still infinitely more interesting. So I feel like it's a little easier to get away with loose paintings traditionally that still feel finished, but I want to shift her skin color just a little, and they're not like literally next to each other or like overlapping, so I don't know how much that'll even show in this, but we can pretend, right? So yeah, I think when I'd done this, or the painting of him before, I just didn't give myself enough detail, and so it was almost simplifying something that was already too simplified, and learning experience, so it's not like it was a waste of time or anything like that. But that's really when I realized, like, okay, if I'm gonna do this, I actually need the digital study to potentially be more detailed than the finished painting, right? The difference is the finished painting will be an actual painting. It's something that people could actually buy if they wanted to. Assuming it ends up being good enough to sell. That's a big assumption. A lot can go wrong between now and then. But that's the intention. Even if it doesn't work out this time around, I'll keep pushing, keep practicing until it does. All right, let's see here. And I have the drawing on top still, so I don't have to really worry about messing that stuff up. Thanks. Yeah, I think by the end it'll be a little hard to tell that their skin is actually a very cool tone, because it'll just kind of look like it's all just because of the cool light, but that's okay. This really is more about the mood and less about being super prescriptive on the character design, which is tough, especially if you're like me and you do work full time, and oftentimes with the limited scope that I have to work on stuff of my own, it's super tempting to want to kind of try and hit multiple birds with one stone. And that gets it gets a little tricky and can kind of mislead me sometimes, where I start wanting to be like, yeah, I know it's not a character design thing, but I don't have time to also do a character design painting, so I'm gonna do an illustration that also shows off their character design, and then it's just too much, right? Because then if you're trying to show their true design, then you're limited to the types of shots you can do, you're limited to the color palette, the lighting, because you got to try and show off everything. And now here, if I wanted to light it by day, I could show off their design, but the mood I wanted was not that. So sorry, I'm just trying to think of the a lot of this stuff is like gold and brass, I guess. I was informed I should bring the music down a little bit. How is that a little better? I hope. So I'm trying to avoid actually going trying to avoid actually going to the warm, so we'll see. I don't think this will be enough. I have a feeling I'm gonna need to get a little bit of the kind of greens that happen from these darker yellows, like that looks pretty damn green, but I feel like, yeah, it might still be a little too green. Shit. I might have to cheat it to get that sort of goldeny vibe across. We may need to cheat it a little warm. I am not using reference. For some of this, I probably should. I should probably look for like some kind of bronze or brass coins at night or something. I don't know. It doesn't have to be coins. It could be anything. So I am not using reference for this currently. I don't often with my own stuff. It's not to say that that's a little bit misleading. I will often look up reference, but I don't have it open while I'm working, right? So I'll look at stuff and I do my best to kind of study it and figure out what's happening in it. And then I'll open up the painting, I'll put the reference away because I like to push my memory. And no, I don't take it as you throwing shade, don't worry. I think there's nothing wrong with using reference. I think the way I learned, or at least the way I kind of taught myself, was not through using a lot of reference. And that was early on, mind you. I'm not saying that I'm totally self-taught. I went to 2 different art schools. So I can't really totally claim self-taught. I did a lot of self-teaching. But that would be doing some amazing instructors a huge disservice if I tried to claim that I was totally self-taught. So we won't do that. I have to also remember that this color is gonna mix, right? Because I have that wet brush on, so we can do that. So I just tend to not use a lot of reference myself, at least not directly when I'm painting, right? I will look at a lot of stuff for sure, and I will study the hell out of it. I don't do studies of it. I wouldn't mind giving that a go. Watching like Evan Amundsen, he'll do that. He'll do studies of things that directly pertain to what he's going to be working on, and I think that's a great way to go. To be honest, it's just not the way that I kind of developed my own methodologies and my own. Come on, words process. Ugh. Words are hard. I don't want to go totally black. It's not totally black, but that's pushing it. Technically, it's not totally black, but it might as well be. So we're gonna lighten that up. Maybe a little bit more. Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, it was darker. I was like, it looks so much darker than his sheath. Because it was so much darker. Well, you don't really need the backlight, to be honest, because the way that, like, the actual, even though the backlight technically would probably be the strongest light source, it's not what is truly lighting them, even though he will get some rim light on him and her hand will probably get some rim light. But the main light source would be more the moonlight. So knowing that that warm light out there is not wrapping around to the front, so I'm not really worried about those brass things catching that really warm light. I think we're gonna get some too saturated. It's so misleading sometimes. What kind of color is that? Damn, that's still full on warm. Too warm. I do want to catch essentially some moonlight on this stuff, so I think we're just gonna have to like go pretty much just gray on that. Some like, I guess specular highlights, but I don't want to go too light, right? The lightest part would be anything that would truly be like reflecting the moon, which is the specular highlight. That's what a specular highlight is. It's just reflecting the light source. So, we can get some of that stuff in if some of these things are like glossy, right? Not like polished and chromed out or whatever. Gotta remember though, oh, right on. Yeah, that's a good thing to do. I gotta remember that this should be casting a shadow, right? If everything else is casting shadows, then This stuff should be too. So we would get a different kind of reflection happening in there. If any, realistically. It all kind of depends, again, on how I want to treat the shadows and how dark I might want to go with them. I don't really want to go like super dark. I prefer to have some air in the shadows, some atmosphere. So I don't like to go like black with them. But I do need to go a little darker. One reason I want to go a little darker is because I want to have a little more room to play with the, because there is going to be, like I said, a bit of rim light, especially on him, coming from that interior. But I also want just a little bit of essentially light bleed, maybe like getting onto her too. And so I just want to give myself that room to kind of play with some of that. Just by bringing those shadows down a little. Right? But before we do that, let's get into the lights. Let's get into kind of painting their skin a bit. I think I might actually start painting on top of the lines for this. Maybe. Not quite yet. I want to get rid of some of the warm underpainting first. Because I don't want that much showing through. I don't want like a totally broken mark everywhere. I don't mind some of that. In fact, I love some of that, but I don't want it everywhere. And again, these are also reasons to kind of take the thought process of art a little more seriously, is to be able to consider these things. I realized her arm is not right against the wall, I don't think, so she's not actually casting a shadow there, which is cool because that gives us the opportunity to sort of chisel out that shadow side a little bit more. That's kind of fun. So, as I was saying, taking art more seriously and not being afraid to think about it to, a pretty deep level. It opens up all these different, awarenesses, I guess, aspects that we become aware of about, just fine-tuning some of this stuff and how we want to say whatever it is we're trying to say, right? Let's, alright, now we'll paint on top. And this is where what I'll probably do is I might cool these lights off a tiny bit, but more than anything, I'm gonna desaturate them. And I don't want to go too light. Again, like, this is nighttime. This isn't like a bright blue light shining on them, so we got to work within this limited value range. Sarah, hello, welcome. Oh. stretch this out. Hydrate with an old-fashioned. And some water. All right. You know what's funny, Autumn, is I almost did. I actually had some set up that were like paint overs and like art crits. But then I realized like what I had in mind for those would only work if I was doing a digital piece. If I had my whole traditional setup, like a paint over wouldn't really work. I might be able to do both once I'm fully set up on the PC, because I'll have enough, juice on that computer to handle all the different camera connections at once. But currently, not so much. So this stuff, now that we're starting to paint on top, to me this is where the real like painting comes in, right? Where we really start to be able to kind of push and pull form. It's not just working within any lines. It's not just laying down base colors. This, to me, this is where we get to like really play with the form and the lighting. So speaking of, we're gonna kick the lines down so they're not so distracting. I want to keep them there a bit because they are helping with some of the accent shadows, but I don't want them to be too distracting. Yeah, the problem is that like at this point I'm only going to be streaming 2 days a week, so I just have too many other things that I'm trying to do that aren't like, they're not the type of stuff that you stream. So, and the amount of art that I'm trying to get done, I don't think I'd be able to do a whole night of that, but yeah, maybe it's only available one night a week, where I could still work on my own stuff, but then also get into some crits and paint overs and whatnot, because I think that would be fun. Like it also helps me learn. I love doing that stuff. Just working on someone else's piece that is, just maybe different from what I would do. I think there's something really interesting about that. Didn't grab that color. There we go. So when we're doing this kind of stuff, though, one of the things that we always want to be a little mindful of, not a little, very mindful of, is how much we use value to turn form versus using temperature as well, right? We want to use temperature to turn form. It's a little trickier when we are working within a very limited color palette, right? Then using temperature to turn form maybe kind of is a different sort of beast, but still not totally out of the question. Yeah, I haven't oil painted in a long time. I mean, I think, I know it's been over a year for sure. Meaning on stream. Hasn't been quite that long since I've actually oil painted, but alright, I'm painting on the left side of her torso right now. I'm just sort of trying to get these shadows to do what I want them to do as I move away from her torso. So you can see I had actually like also painted in some of the accent shadows, so we can still grab some of those, but we can cool them off a bit, I think, and desat them because they don't need to be so saturated. This is from Final Fantasy. I'm not doing the epidemic sound tonight. I just really felt like hearing the Final Fantasy stuff. It's not the actual Final Fantasy VI soundtrack, but it's one of the other versions that so far no one has dinged me on, so we'll see. Who knows? YouTube might freak out afterward and be like, hey, we're taking this down. Although usually they have not been taking stuff down because I'm not monetizing on YouTube, so they tend to just throw an ad in front of it if someone claims it, so whatever. I don't care. I don't care. This is more about the live stream experience, not the VOD. Granted, it does suck when it gets kind of muted or partly muted afterward, and then anyone that wants to watch it afterward doesn't get to hear some of it. Whatever. Alright. Skin. So, shit. I feel like I'm gonna have to. I don't know how much I can actually play with temperature in this particular case to turn form, so I think I mean, I could, but I feel like it'd be sort of pushing it a little bit. So I think we're gonna have to rely on just some really subtle value shifts. But you gotta keep them subtle, otherwise things can get busy really quickly. That's the It's the hard part if we get too crazy with our value shifts, right? Is things will just start getting really busy really quick. And this is where it's also kind of fun to paint around to see, like, okay, well, what kind of form do I want to give? You know, like, of course, my initial reaction was like, oh, she's gonna be super cut, because that's kind of what I'm used to depicting. But at the same time, I don't think it makes complete sense for her to be like sure, she should be athletic. She fucking sails, you know, and that's not an easy task. But I don't think she should be all like cross-fitted out or anything. Unless, you know, elves knew more about carbs than we give them credit for. So, you know, I want that kind of athletic, strong, but maybe more, like a little more of like a belly dancer sort of vibe, I think. Cool that off. Might be a little too much. And little by little, we'll start to get a bit more of the underpainting painted over as we go. Again, I want to leave some of that, but I don't mind. I don't mind painting over a little more of it than what we have right now. Oh, the chocobos. And we should also get a little bit of light on her hair. Give it that nice silky vibe. Before we do that, I'm not sure what color I want her eyes to be. If I want her to, I kind of want her to have light eyes, but I don't know. Just think it'd be a kind of a fun contrast. get in there. Let's yeah, let's paint on the face for a while. We all like to get into a little bit of portraiture, right? And this is where you can see kind of how loose it was before, right? So now we can start to get into some of these smaller shapes. Light on the hair. Light on the hair. Let's see. Blue probably doesn't need to be even that light. Too green though. So for the most part, I've been kind of unifying a lot of the shadows, but in some places I don't want to do that. So I'm kind of picking and choosing. Which, you know, we get to do as illustrators. We don't have to always set up like one rule and stick to it in a piece, you know. Now it's good to not go too crazy with that. If you do set up some rules within an illustration, it's often a good idea to adhere to them to a degree. But we can push and pull them a little bit without upsetting the greater order of things, the natural order. Now this is tricky because a lot of this stuff I would normally mostly use temperature for a lot of this stuff to shift, right? Especially like around here, right? Where she's smiling, that kind of underside of the sort of apple of the cheek. I would normally use temperature for that because I wouldn't want it to read as like a wrinkle, but with this super limited palette, that's not as much of an option. So we just got to be careful not to push the value shifts too hard on some of those things. I mean, you know, unless you decide, yeah, I want that to be a little harsher. Nothing wrong with that. Like I do want that bottom eyelid to there, I'm just trying to think ahead a little bit of just like color shifts and whatnot. I need to teeth can be tricky, as I'm sure we've all found out. Let's get a little bit of... hesitant to get too much of a specular. Teeth, though, maybe don't have to be as tricky as some people think, because it really lies in just simplifying the shit out of them. So, in a sense, they're actually like kind of really easy. In this case, right now, I actually have visible strokes. The other thing that you can do, which I do want, is first I want to get the bottom part of that lip. Describe some of this a little more. The other thing that you can do is just get a hint of the gums in there, right? And you don't need to do any more than that. Like, right there, the teeth can be done. I just want to get that shape right. You know, I don't need to do any more. If I want to, I could throw like a little bit of a specular highlight on them, but I would wait until I've thrown highlights on other stuff so that I kind of know how far I can push with that, because I wouldn't do much, right? Yeah, I mean, I just don't think they need any more than that. So, teeth are done. Super simple. I think usually the problem I see people run into is putting just way too much detail in the teeth, and that tends to just mess up everything. It'll make everything look like really goofy, and you don't want to do that. Hello, Willie. How's it going? How you doing? Let's see. I'm hesitant to constantly grab colors sometimes. I think sometimes it's nice to, you know, digitally mix them again, just for variation, but whatever. How's it going, Willie? We've been getting into setting up a more cohesive, or a, not more cohesive, because we didn't have a color palette at all last time we left this. So we're working on the color palette now. For anyone who doesn't know, if you're using Procreate, if you pick a color, right? So if I pick this, and sometimes that happens accidentally, and it's really annoying. But if you just use your finger and press and hold on the little color swatch in the upper right, it'll pop it back to the previous color. So just FYI, it can be a quick way to switch between multiple colors. Now she's starting to look like she has a little too much of an evil grin, so we might have to chill out the furrow in her brow, but we'll get there. We're gonna chill out that furrow a little bit. That might be a little too much, but that's fine. We can bring it back just a little. One of the things that I'm going to want to do eventually, and probably more in the actual painting, is get into a bit more of the kind of poetry of the mark making, I guess. Like I said, actual brushes, you know, their marks are infinitely more interesting still than digital brushes, even though digital does a great job of mimicking some of the effects, but you just can't. I think it's still pretty damn hard to mimic the organic nature of actual bristles, you know. That's fantastic, Willie. That's what I like to hear. And yeah, it's good to take a day off every now and then. But only one. I'm finishing up an Earl Grey Old Fashioned, by the way. I got these Earl Grey bitters that are absolutely delicious. They were well worth the investment. Ooh, look at that heat. It's crazy. Staring at this the whole time, right? And then you're just like, whoa. But that's a pretty fun contrast. And she's starting to come together there a little bit. Got to get more of the shadows working. Damn, that's a warm one. I mean, technically, it's not super warm, but... I feel like she still needs some accents and stuff. We might be able to cheat a little bit of transillumination on her ear, you know, and we could maybe justify it saying like, oh, the light, some light coming in from the interior, coming out from the interior there, maybe is what's doing it. So we could potentially, if we do though, it's gonna have to be like real subtle. Real fucking high on drugs. Sorry, any Tool fans? Or Ginsberg fans? Autumn gets it. I kind of like getting a little bit of the kind of warm shadows in there. It's sort of a fun contrast. So that'll definitely be something maybe to play with. With the actual oil painting, I think. Just want to get a little bit of light on some of these. I rarely zoom in on the Cintiq. The thing is so big. But It depends though on how finished a piece is going to be. So it's not to say I don't, because there are times that I do and that I have used it. I think it's pretty sparing because the thing, it's high resolution and it's so damn big that it's like most of the time you don't have to. I think it just depends on how crazy detailed you want to get. For something like this, I don't know if I would. I might, like, a little bit, but I wouldn't, like, zoom way in, you know? I feel like that starts to mess with my marks a little too much. I'm just thinking about this trans-illumination. Probably shouldn't be much. It's almost a little too late, even. Like, I want it to be fairly subtle. So now we gotta subtle. Debating if I want to. I feel like I want to get a little bit, like one more level of highlights in here, but not, I don't want to go too crazy with them. So we're gonna cool off, because this would now be what is essentially the reflection of the moon, so it should be cooler, right? I don't want to go too crazy. We'll see. We'll see how these. Oop. The nice thing with Photoshop, though, is that you can actually see the brush cursor, right? So that you guys would actually be able to see a little easier where I'm painting. So we'll get into that pretty soon too. We'll get into some actual Photoshop stuff. I've just been spread a little thin, so I haven't finished like setting up all the software and stuff on the PC. But once I do, we'll get into some fun shit. So the other aspect I had mentioned before, that this is kind of where I get into the actual painting, right? And this is where it can be a lot of fun, I think, to kind of play with where we get to do some lost and found edges, right? Where we get to have some of the forms sort of bleed together a little bit. And to me, that's where like the real painting is. And that shit's just so much fun. And it adds a little bit of like, I don't know, a certain kind of mystery to things. I kind of like, so it happened accidentally, but I kind of like it. She's got this slight lopsided smile that I think is pretty damn cute. kind of might wanna play that up a little bit. Maybe. Not there though. That wide. So it might be more playing it up here, right? Because it kind of feels like it's a little lopsided where one side drops down a little bit more. Damn. Everything I do makes it feel like it's more balanced, which is kind of funny. So we might have to just sort of leave it, or really like play it up. Too dark. See, this is where it's like a lot of times it's just pushing and pulling some values. You just got to be careful not to, like, what you want to read as a crease or a wrinkle, and what you want to just be form turning, right? See, so like letting that highlight from the nose bleed right into that highlight from the cheek. It just kind of, I don't know, there's something about those kinds of little details that sort of add something to the painting that give it like something that maybe other mediums don't do as well, you know? Man, I could paint faces all day. Oh wait, I do. When I think about it. Kind of what we do. let's get into some of that clothing, some of the drapery. Drapery, for me personally, I've found just works so much better when I keep it a little looser. When I try and go really tight on drapery, it just ends up looking like shit. So I've found personally, and like when I do oil painting, a lot of times I'll actually do the drapery with a palette knife. I've gotten better, I think, with a brush, just from doing stuff like this. But man, before it was like, if I did it with a palette knife, I could make it look great. But if I tried to do it just with a brush, and I don't know, there's just something about it. It just didn't work at all. Let's see here. We're gonna want to get some shadows. Which brush are we on? Okay, the color. No, we can stick with the color. Why not? And again, this is a flat brush, right? So I can do that, and I can do that, right? Or I can do that, get some calligraphy in it. Just because that tends to be the brushes that I use for oils. They tend to be flat. So I just like it. It's just kind of how I'm used to thinking in terms of mark making. So I like my digital brushes to mimic that. Mostly just because I don't get to oil paint as much as I would like, and so I want some similarities, as many similarities as I can get between the digital and the analog painting. That way, it's not as jarring when I do, get to dive into oils. At least like my thought process is there, even if I have to kind of take the time to remember the steps for the medium, right? Because oil does have an order that you have to kind of do things in, if you don't want to like totally mess it up. And I've had many instances where I did not do things in the correct order, and then I was like, damn it. I should have done that. Like maybe I didn't establish my accents as soon as I should have, or jumped into something too early and then ended up having to like totally repaint it, or who knows what. And the shitty thing is then like either you scrape it down and then you have to totally repaint that whole area, and you usually have to scrape down more than just the little part you messed up on, because you need to kind of lead the paint into itself. So hey Clock Foxed, thank you and welcome and good evening. Thank you for joining. I'm liking this bit of like atmosphere that we have happening in her hair right here, so I want to kind of like, ooh, that's nice. I want to explore that. I don't know what the point is, except that it looks nice. But we don't need any more point than that. That's the whole point of painting, right? I like when hair starts to look a bit sculptural, like I'm so not interested in painting like individual hairs. For certain types of illustration, yes, I will get into flyaways, but ultimately I I like hair that feels like a sculpture. It's just a personal preference. Not saying it's better or anything like that. It's just what I enjoy painting. All right, we were gonna get into the drapery, and then I got distracted because I saw some pretty stuff happening in the hair. It happens. It happens. And at some point, we'll have to get into these coins for real. Figure that stuff out. Right, get into their cast shadows and stuff and whatnot. Whatnot. I just want to give them a little bit of separation and stuff. Clock Fox, how's your evening going? Let's see. So with the drapery, it's actually like with this immediate area in terms of her neck and up on her shoulder, I'm probably not going to do a whole lot more than what's here. Oh, nice. Damn. It's a long stream. That would be fun. One of these days I will probably do like a nice long stream, but I would have to plan ahead for that. I mean, it'd be fun to do like a legit 8 to 10 hour stream, have a lunch break and chill in the middle. But just to kind of show, I guess, what I might get done in a day. I think could be a lot of fun. I think that's too light. Yeah, it's way too light. Dang it. So I don't want it too much lighter because this is matte, right? So while the skin is not glossy, it's more glossy than like wool or cotton, right? So we don't want this. I'll probably go a tiny bit more, but not much. Oh, right on. That's cool. Damn. That's no joke either. I know I've heard of some people doing those longer ones. I mean, some people do the crazy marathon ones, and then I'm just like, I don't understand. Like, literally ones where part of it is like watching the person sleep. It's just like, what? Why? So again, this is where it's also fun to just let some of those lights bleed together, right? And this is where, again, we get into simultaneous contrast, where we might have the same value but different colors. But even sometimes I will often bleed the same colors in, because I like to kind of combine some of those things, and it helps sort of lead the eye around in some really fun ways. You know, I think we sometimes get caught up when we're painting in like describing everything and separating every form, and a lot of times my stuff will start out that way, but it doesn't end up that way at all. I will take the time to see like, okay, where can I sort of push and pull some of these shapes and blend them in together. You know, it's just, I don't know, it's a lot of fun, and it's one of those things that we can get away with in painting that maybe we can't quite get away with in other mediums as much. I'm trying not to paint too much in the shadows because I want a little bit more of that sort of classical approach where the shadows are left fairly transparent. I will definitely paint a little bit in them, but you know, an old rule of thumb was never use any white in the shadows, right? I don't totally adhere to that, and I'm not going to say like they're wrong, because whatever, those guys probably knew a hell of a lot more about painting than I do, but at the same time, I'm also not that sold on like, you have to do everything exactly this one way or you're doing it wrong. You know, I think we all have figured out that there are exceptions to just about every rule in painting. So, you know, we can do what we want. Want to catch some lights on the edges of some of these rocks. Again, we'll bleed some of those shapes together. don't want these rocks to actually feel like they have a ton of, like, I want them to be a bit flat. So it's like, I knew I'd have to go back and paint over some of that stuff because I got a little crazy with the darker shapes, describing a little more form than I wanted. And realistically, they're probably a little more organic than they should be. Because realistic, like they would have still needed to kind of fit together, right? So they would have tried to get them fairly squared off. I think we can take some liberties with it, but maybe rein it in just a little. And they probably would have used a bit of cement of some kind. Between them if they were going to be this organic. But whatever. We can always go back and address that at some point. I'm not terribly concerned. I think we should Yeah, I agree, Arthur Kell. Those people that are sitting there with their like varnish porn, pouring varnish directly onto a painting, they should be ashamed of themselves and their families. Hey, kitten. How about you stop scratching my pillow? Is that a fun game? Catching a little bit of moonlight on the edge there, on the top of that counter. Which we could probably do over on this side. Damn, we're gonna have to paint him up. Not tonight, though. We'll get into him next stream. See, now these coins are like way too warm. I think we're gonna have to cool them off a bit more. And it might just be a matter of like kicking the saturation down. Sometimes I'm hesitant to do that just because it can start to turn everything gray, you know? Clockfox, thank you for the follow, my friend. I appreciate that. You know, I don't want everything to just be grays, even though I do have some fantastic different grays in oils that I've been really dying to use. They're all made from like specific like pigments that are found in like a specific part of France, I think. They're from Williamsburg, and they're just beautiful like earth tones, but really like subtle, and they look amazing. And I bought them because I was like, oh my god, I want these. I'm gonna do so much with them one of these years. So I might have to like plan a painting around that at some point. Just using like awesome earth tones. I mean, the fun thing is that you can really unify a painting that way. You can use like I could lay out a few of these earth tones and then a couple of saturated colors and use a limited palette and basically just use the colors to push those earth tones around a little bit, right? And it would really like unify the painting a lot. So yeah, I'll probably do that at some point eventually. And yeah, totally artist life. It's like you see something and you're like, I'm totally gonna do that, and I'm gonna buy all the things, and then you never do anything with them. I think I want to do actually a darker. Whoa, damn, this is darker than I thought. That's crazy. That's just this color here is that much darker. That's wild. Get something a tad lighter. There we go. I think I wanna chisel out, because I know in the actual painting I'm gonna want some of these things to be like really hard edges. You know, I don't want just a bunch of soft, lost edges everywhere. I was originally gonna lose that edge, but I think not. You know, doesn't have to be super high contrast. I just want, for this one, I'm actually thinking of for these hard edges, I'm thinking of a contemporary painter, Hollis Dunlap. Super nice guy. Fucking amazing painter. Man, that guy, like, he blows my mind. The way he uses color and mark making, and his edges are just absolutely to die for. Not always, Mauricio. Actually, there were times that they literally had stuff like this, but that was usually with, again, if they had some kind of a cement to keep it in place. Mortar, I should say, because you know they've been using cement for thousands of years, so they could get away with it. And so sometimes if you go into some of the medieval villages in Europe, at least the few that I've been to in France, that still have like original buildings. Yeah, they don't always have a wooden beam. That is one of the things I did double check, because I had the same doubt. In fact, I think if we go back to that original drawing I had, oh, bright white, right? I had it set up where it was wooden beams, but then I was like, it's kind of boring. It's a little too like not organic enough for me. So I had to double check, and I looked into it, and I was like, okay, cool. So I can use stone for some of these. Let's look at our process here. If it'll load. Woo! Alright, so wait, what is that? What on earth is going on? Wow, it is messing with that contrast. How crazy. So that should be a pencil sketch that's just very light. Wow. Procreate's time lapse has gotten a little weird with the 5x, I have to say. So this was kind of I had done a really rough sketch in pencil, like a little tiny thumbnail, and then did a little bit tighter sketch over the top, right? And then we started like really tightening, doing the tight lines. Whee! Tight lines. Whee! Right? Whee! Oh yeah, I was just demoing the watercolor pack, Maxi Lichny's watercolor pack, wherever that is. Can't really... Oh, almost there. Woo! Watercolors. Then our underpainting. Just starting to knock in some kind of values. The fucking pizza oven behind him. Wow, these values got really messed up. Alright, Procreate. Your time-lapse replay is fired. Look at that. Our painting looks nothing like that. Fired, bro. Make me look like a hack that can't control his values. Whatever. Whatever. I got value control. Yeah, I don't know, like, it doesn't always do that either. And I should probably double check my time-lapse settings to see if there's something that changed. I don't really know what it would be, but really quick, and just because I'm curious more than anything else, I want to get a little bit of light bleed on her. I don't want to go crazy with it, right? That's something that's really easy to kind of overdo. Light bleed, and these are reflective, so that's okay. Light bleed and rim lights can get overdone. Sorry, reflected light, essentially, is what we're talking about, right? Because it's all, we just have to remember our 5 lights, right? Lights, midtones, shadows, accents, and reflected lights. Accents being accented darks and highlights. They're both accents, right? So lights, midtones, darks, accents, and reflected lights. Everything falls into one of those, right? And reflected light should never be as light as the lights. Rim light is different because that's actually caused by a secondary light source, so that can get as light as the lights, but true reflected light should never get as light as the stuff that's in the lights. We could probably get away with that here simply because what's causing the reflected light, or the light bleed in her case, is a stronger, more local light source. So we could probably get away with them being lighter, but I don't really want to. I want the shadows to kind of be their own thing. So we're just gonna catch a little bit of that. And I might end up getting rid of it. I don't know if I want that kind of a separation between her and like the shadow shape behind her. you know? Um, I might not, but we'll see. We'll see. Trying to think of where I want to jump to. We should get these coins and stuff done. At this point, it is kind of just like, you know, picking a spot and then finishing out from there. So let's grab. I don't want all of these coins to be the exact same level of reflectiveness. I don't want them all to have the same texture. Maybe they're not even the same material, because I decided when I was actually doing the drawing for this, I was like, that would actually be cool if these were real coins, you know, that she has collected in her travels, and made some kind of top out of, if we can call it that. Forever 21 before it was cool. Right? Forever 21 would totally make like a cheap version of this. Oh wait, Forever 21's not cool anymore. That's not true. They still do some fun stuff. Some of this noodly detail isn't necessarily as fun to watch, but, you know, we'll get through it. It's a necessary part. It's a necessary evil. I'm kind of just trying to think through and see, like, okay, how are these actually turning in space, you know? So I want to start to get some of the light hitting them with that stuff in mind. So, and I may go in and put little details on the coins. I don't think that kind of detail will help me though. For the final piece, I feel like that's something I could do in the final, because it's not going to be very specific detail. This is only a 16 by 20 inch painting, so, you know, she's only going to be like, what, 11 inches tall? So I'm not gonna sit there and like draw heads and tails on these coins or anything. Oh, don't be silly. Mustard. some of these bigger ones maybe we can kind of allude to a little more detail. We need some shadows here. I'm still trying to decide what to do about these big like bead things on the sash. I'm not entirely sure yet. We'll get there. And this kind of stuff is where I really always kind of find a new appreciation for like Frazetta. You know, every time I think like, oh, okay, you know, like I get it, you know, but you know, how relevant is he still? And I mean, we can make that argument regardless, like, but the fact that he got to a point where he could, you know, do this stuff without doing all these prelims. Now, he did do prelims, don't get me wrong. He would do a lot of little studies, quick little watercolor studies and stuff, because, of course, he was so damn good with watercolor, too. But, you know, like, he was comfortable enough with the brush that he could do so much of this detail work just as he was working on the final piece, which is so cool, you know, just to think of that kind of comfort level. Always like gives me kind of a new appreciation for him. Weird. Funny, I was thinking of rating cryo, but that's cool. I can keep painting. So, you know, and this stuff, I love like just doing these kind of subtle things, and you know, I'll do a lot of painting back and forth, partly because I don't use a lot of like direct reference for my stuff, and so a lot of what happens is I will kind of paint around until I find what I'm looking for, you know. So there are times that I'll just end up like painting over a section and then repainting it and repainting it. Of course, the worst then is when you paint over something and then you like what you had before. And, you know, granted, with digital, you could also just use layers for that, right? Which sometimes is a smart way to go, but if you're looking to use a wet brush, a digital wet brush, right? Where you need the colors to be able to blend, then the layers don't work so well. At least not in Procreate. In Photoshop, you could select sample all layers, right? And then you just have to hope your computer can handle whatever size canvas you're working on. Because selecting all layers will make your machine chug if it's not a bit of a beast. So... shape to read is that coin is a little too oblong, so this should actually be a bit rounder. I feel like we need another one, otherwise technically you'd be seeing some nip, and Twitch doesn't like that. Sorry, Twitch, I make no promises for the final piece. It's not nipple, it's just a little skin discoloration. This song is from the Final Fantasy Piano Collections. It is the Decisive Battle, is what it's called. And yeah, I love this track. It's rad. She's rad. Those beads. Alright, well, we've got plenty of shit to show. Raid! Cryo! Damn, with a massive party. Yo! Cryomera! What's up, dude? How are you doing? Welcome. By the way, anyone, if you don't follow Cryomera, did I do 2 R's there? I did 2 R's. You should. She's amazing. She does all kinds of awesome block printing and stuff, and ink drawing, and it's so cool. Anyone who's new here, we are working on what is going to be a study. I'm doing a digital study for what I want to do as an actual oil painting. So that's kind of what I'm working on. I have like old school illustrators in mind, namely Dean Cornwell, who do these cool vignettes. Um, I do a lot of this kind of like fantasy type of stuff. Some past pieces. Though this was not on a live stream, but I have this kind of fantasy world in my head that I'm slowly wanting to build. So doing anything from those illustrations to like character design to kind of help flesh out my world a bit. Yes, definitely heavily inspired by Mr. Frazetta. More character designs. I have some stuff that probably can't show on Twitch because they don't like boobies. But I'll also do some, the occasional sci-fi stuff. We did do this one on stream a while back, which was for my Kickstarter, my book that had launched back in July. So these are our cyber elves. From top to bottom, we've got Manga, we've got I, and we have Quinn. The names come from my favorite colors on my oil painting palette, which is manganese blue, Indian yellow, and quinacridone magenta. So that's what I named them after. So there's a little bit of sci-fi for y'all, because, that stuff's fun. I think I might have... I don't know if I did this one on stream or not. I don't remember. Maybe I did. More fantasy. Fantasy for everyone. Cool. You lurk. But Cryo, how are you doing? And what did you work on today? Link, show us what you worked on. Because I love the stuff that you do. So please, link away. Yeah, cyber elves. The concept just sounded really fun, so I still want to get around to like playing that world a little bit. I just have other stories I think that are a little further along, so I'm like, no, okay, I gotta do more with those. And once I develop like something a little more concrete for our cyber elf girls, then I'll definitely jump back over there. Yes. Cryo. Your stuff is dope. What were you working on today on your stream? Were you doing some inks or prints? What was you up to? And if anyone ever has any questions, by the way, always feel free to ask, whether it's art related or something else entirely. Oh, okay. No, that's okay. I know how it goes. Especially right after a stream, right? I'm sure any streamers know right after the stream it always like it gets a little hectic trying to do a bunch of different things. I know how that goes. Um, I'm thinking I want to get a little bit more value variation in these coins. For anyone who doesn't know, since pretty much everyone watching right now just about is coming from Cryo's stream. These I was thinking are actual coins that she has collected on her travels, because these are sea-going elves, sea elves, sailors by trade. So this, as I said before, this like Forever 21 style top she has on is actual coinage from different lands that she has gone to. So I want to get some kind of variation in the textures and how reflective they are, and some of them are maybe much older. But this is like basically lit by moonlight, so I feel like they're all a little still too cool. So let's do, or it's too warm, sorry, not too cool, not cool enough. So I'm just gonna cool them off really quick. I'm gonna totally cheat. Yes, I do digital cheats every now and then. Too light. So just bringing in a cooler color to kind of bring over the top of all of these. Oh, thanks, Cryo. I appreciate it. I'm gonna be popping back into your stream at some point, I'm sure, one of these days. I've been a little absent on streams lately, but I want to get back to them. And Josh is an artist. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with this color palette, really kind of playing with this idea that they're outside at night, lit by moonlight. It's really fun to just kind of play with this limited thing, and then this window that'll be looking into the tavern, so it'll be all warm light there. So I'll have to kind of work out those values and some of the stuff going on. It looks less like a pizza oven now than it did when I first started the stream. So that's good. But yeah, having a lot of fun with this. Willie, how would I go about drawing Norse clothing? Well, that depends on how specific you want to be. With the clothing, meaning how accurate you want to be. I think there are a lot of misconceptions about what the Norse people actually wore, and then you'd have to look into like time periods too. Like, what time period are you wanting it to fall into? So that being said, I would probably start by doing a lot of research, to be honest. That's probably not something that I would do just like off the top of my head, unless I wanted it to just be kind of inspired by, right? Like if I was doing, again, more of a fantasy scene, and I just wanted it to be kind of inspired by Norse clothing in some way. Um, then maybe I might kind of just start going ahead with it. But I think at some point I would still look at some research, just because like you don't know what you don't know, and it's good to kind of see what you might be able to do a little different, you know. I want some hotter. So I switched brushes to this is one that I had made, and oh, you're not going to be able to see it because I have it on the wet brush. But here you can see that linen texture, right? So I had basically just scanned in, and that's way the hell too big, by the way. Damn, it's only 35% too? Holy shit. Let's scale you down a little. Jeez. So I had scanned in like really high res. That's better. A really nice linen panel and made a brush out of that, basically. So that's what this is. Get a little bit of actual like moonlight kind of hitting these. Oh, why is it so? And I figured as I get further along with this, I could start using this linen brush because I'm gonna be doing the oil painting on linen. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to mimic some of that texture. A little bit. Aw, thanks. Your next tattoo. I appreciate that. And no worries. There's no pressure to interact and all that stuff. So, you know, I always kind of leave that open if people have any questions. You know, I always encourage folks to please chime in and ask, but no pressure. If you don't have any questions, that's okay too. I think that should be lighter. I don't want to go too light on the skin. Did we go back to the wet one? No, we didn't. That's why. It's like, what's going on? Why is it so direct? Yeah, I can get on board with that too. Oh, thanks. Nacho Stout. Yeah, I stream Mondays and Thursdays. Generally start at 7 p.m. Pacific time. I work full time, so it's hard for me to get more streams in than that. But Mondays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Pacific, you can find me here. You know, really glad you were able to join. And, you know, another big shout out to Cryo for that awesome raid. It was rad. Now on her, I'm mostly currently kind of just playing with some more subtle stuff, though I should probably stop avoiding her hands and just get into them. Wow, this... I forgot about the settings on this brush. I quite like them. It was kind of a fun... Like, has more mix in it than the other one I was using. So this is kind of fun to play with here. Shit, I'm trying to think. The other hard part when you don't have direct reference is trying to figure out actually how this light would work. It's a little tricky, but whatever. It's fun. We like that. Like playing with this shit. That's looking a little better. You know my motto. If it doesn't look wrong, it's right. Oh, I'm glad you were able to join as well, Josh. I appreciate that. No, I also actually love painting hands. It just becomes, it's a whole other thing, right? Like they're as involved as faces are. So it's more of a timing thing. I'm like, do I want to get into the hands right now? Because, you know, I won't be on for too much longer. So that's where I'm like, it might be better to kind of get into those a little later, but at the same time, I could probably start them. Don't mind starting them. I actually like painting hands more than I like drawing them. Drawing them, I tend to just shortcut the hell out of them. But painting them, I actually have a lot of fun. Trying to figure out. I think this brush has a lot more like mix on it, so it's working a little different than the other one that I was using. But that's okay. I don't mind. It's actually kind of fun. I actually want them both to have... Yeah, no, we see one of his hands too. Cool. Like lacquered nails. Even though I think that was kind of more of a pirate thing. Like pirates would tend to do that sometimes. Essentially nail polish, but probably a lot more unhealthy than the stuff that we have now. I'm sure it was some kind of solvent-based something or other. But whatever. Whatever. Alright. Shadows. So with this one, she's actually... My idea was that she's actually like kind of playing with the ring on her forefinger, like sort of with her thumb. So, um, well, your next tattoo. That's not a dumb question. I think it's a combination of brushes, but also being used to painting. Um, like the texture and stuff, yeah, is in the brushes, but I've seen stuff that gets pretty painterly just by the way that they apply the strokes. And so that's where, in my case, I like brushes that kind of mimic a bit of my traditional approach. Um, so I want to go back to my, which one? This one. Right? Shit, no, I don't remember which one I was using before I switched. Before I switched, I think it was just this one. So I use flat brushes, right? You can see here. And that's the brush tip, so it has a texture built into it. And I use flat brushes because when I oil paint, I tend to paint with flat brushes a lot. So I just like stuff that mimics that. And then I have some the dynamics turned on, the wet mix. Sorry. So I have the wet mix turned on the brush, so it does a bit of mixing on the canvas, which further mimics the traditional stuff. So there are things that we can do, little digital tricks that we can do to kind of give it that vibe. But at the same time, if you're not comfortable with actually painting, then it would probably be kind of hard to make it feel like a painting. At least I think that would be kind of tricky. The nails, I said I want them lacquered. Not just that, but I actually kind of want them to have sort of long nails. Although I don't know if that makes sense if you're sailing. Like you gotta haul ropes and, keel haul people and shit. I don't. Whatever sailors do. So long nails might not actually make much sense. So we might have to go with some shorter nails on this stuff. And that's fine too. I don't mind. I don't think though. I want better shadow color. Really? Is that the... Damn. Want to lighten up some of these shadows, although they don't need to be that light. Given that area inside her hand would actually be, pretty dark. Oh, thank you, Cryo. I appreciate that. I've been having a lot of fun with it. Kind of thinking I might carry through this sort of, basically I'm thinking they have this like full-on ultramarine pigment, right? Which in our world is made from lapis lazuli, lapis lazuli. I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce it, so we'll just say lapis. Is what gives us ultramarine blue, which I believe is only found in the Middle East, I think. I don't know if they've found it anywhere else. So it kind of makes sense because I sort of based them visually on some Middle Eastern cultures. So we're just gonna run with that and give them some ultramarine. That ring that she's playing with. Yes, thanks for you too, Archer Cal. Thanks for, nudging over here. And yeah, that scene in Black Sails is gnarly. If anyone has not seen Black Sails and you want to see what keel hauling really was, oh, that is not for the faint of heart. Remember, her hand will actually be catching rim light, so because we have to think that her hand is sticking out, right? From this outside bar. So it's actually sticking out far enough that light would be getting past that our window there, which I'm really gonna have to figure that out. It's looking so loose now, but whatever, we're not there yet. So thank for the follow, Blind Coyote Art, and let's back up there. We got so many follows. Eric Malikit Zay's Art, thank you very much. The Rich Ant, Shoiku? I don't know how you pronounce that. What's up in the mix? Behave. Josh is an artist. Wart TH Studios? Wart H Studios? Your Next Tattoo. RXIV. Stretch. Oh, that was redeemed. I didn't even see that. Redemption. Oh my god. No one wants to become famous. Shh. Ooh, Autumn. Ban them. That's always fun. Do you want to become famous? Let's see. Where am I? Wait, where are my mod settings? Show my mod icons. Yo. Where'd he go? Goodbye. Okay, bye. Okay. Thank you, Blind Coyote. I appreciate that. Definitely having a lot of fun on this one. I want to get a bit of gloss on. Stick with our kind of ultramarine, but get a little bit of highlight on our nail lacquer. Man, I'm so used to like getting into hands with like temperature shift, and because what we need are more fireworks, people. Sorry, anyone that lives anywhere around LA knows that people here just love their fireworks no matter what time of year it is. They're just like, hey guys, it's almost Friday. Let's light off some fireworks. And of course, they can't wait, or they can't do it earlier in the day. They're like, no, we gotta wait till it's late and everyone's like starting to go to sleep. And so again, because this is going to be, this is something that I'm doing to basically do an oil painting off of, I want to actually give myself potentially more detail than what might end up in the actual painting, right? It kind of all depends on where I want to lean into just the fun interest that actual brushes get versus, you know, fleshing out some detail. And some of those decisions will really just have to wait till I get into the painting, because it's hard to know before then. But we'll get into some of that. So normally I would really get into, you know, like warmer temperatures, and I might still, I'm so on the fence with this. You know, like fingertips, knuckles, things like that, I would normally warm them up. Yeah, your next tattoo, I actually want to paint this on, like, in oils. And, you know, because, like, hey, thanks for the follow, you're illegal. You know, because, you know, I'm not going to find actual reference of some sea elves hanging out outside a tavern, I have to paint the reference myself. You know, and I mean, it'll be a fun challenge to do this in oils. I have no idea if it'll end up anywhere near, as cool as wherever this ends up. But at least I wouldn't be like going in blind, right, into the oil painting. And I'll have something to base it on. I'll have some colors to shoot for, forms, the value design, all that stuff. Gotta figure this out. This is a little bit. Let's grab you. We're losing the top of her forearm there, which is kind of pushing her arm down. Which we don't want, because you gotta be aware of where this bar cuts in. And so this shadow is not in the right place. Not quite. It's not far off, but yeah, so, we'll try painting it. I have not been oil painting all that much lately. So it will take some getting used to, for sure. But that's okay. We can take it slow. And it really does make it so much easier just to have some kind of reference to base things off of. Makes it much easier. Alright, these beads I gotta figure out. I think she'll have 2 different colors on them. So my idea with the beads is that they denote some kind of rank or station, like in life, right? For them, it's part of their thing. By the way, it's super fun to play with saturation on this limited palette, because where we can't quite push the colors around a ton, we can play with saturation, even though it's totally cheating, but whatever. We don't care. So I'm trying to decide with these beads how that station is denoted. Whether it's purely the type of bead and the color, right? Because he's got this one larger one, and so I don't know if he is a higher station than her or not. I have no idea. I hadn't even really thought about that. I should probably think about that. So like hers could be made from something that's more precious. His might just be wood or some cheaper stone or something. But I think that they will actually also carve into them. Like there will be some kind of carving, I think. I don't know that I'll get super specific and detailed on exactly what's carved into them right now, or ever in terms of this painting, because realistically those would be pretty tiny. But it's something for me to think about, right? Let's catch some of those edges. some of those edges. Doesn't take much. Doesn't take much. Little details that sometimes make it feel more detailed than it really is. Abstract shit that, will just fake. How long have we been on? 3 hours, 40 minutes. I'll probably call it pretty soon here, I think. Obviously, there's so much more to do. I kind of underestimated it. At first, I was like, oh, a nice simple scene, and then kind of underestimated all the stuff I just started drawing in. It takes like 30 seconds to draw something in, and then I'm like, oh shit, now I have to paint all of that. But that's cool. It's fun. And I feel like we got, to a good place today. Where it started, I think that was where we started today. Last time we had done all that stuff, right? So that was the little tiny, this was a little thumbnail sketch that I had started out with. Just in my moleskin, literally like a little thumbnail, probably like that big maybe. And then we did a drawing on top of that. Maybe we'll bring this one, right? Did the drawing, which was there, and that. Yeah, and then we started throwing in our underpainting. Word. And then we got some nice painting done today. I'm happy with it. I dig it. It makes me want to do a real painting of it, and that's kind of the point. So I ain't gonna argue that. Yeah, I think I'm gonna call it for tonight. I do sometimes draw very tiny, actually. I'm gonna show, I don't know where the sketchbook is that has the thumbnail in it, so I can't show you the actual thumbnail. It's somewhere over there. Yeah, I think I'm gonna call it for tonight. I do have to work tomorrow, so I should probably get a decent amount of sleep, somewhat. I will be back on Monday. I'll probably end up doing a bit of work on this between now and then, but we'll get back to it on Monday for sure. There's a lot to go still. I still got to figure out what kind of tattoos they're going to have, because they're going to have some tattoos. There'll be some textiles on their clothing, I think. Maybe not on all of the clothing, but on some of it at least. So that'll be fun. Yeah. Lots to do. But it'll be good times. It'll be a fun adventure. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Rainy Mage. Glad you were able to kind of make it back in. Thanks to Cryomera for the awesome raid. I super appreciate it. And yeah, we'll be back on Monday, 7 p.m. Pacific time. 1900 hours for those outside of the U.S. um, and we will see y'all next time. Thank you, and have a great night, folks. Please enjoy yourselves.